Hello everyone, and welcome to another bottom brick. First of all, before we begin any of this, you all know, I don't need to say this is Rosemary Altea, because you all know who I am. So, first of all, I'd like to say hello to Grey Eagle, who is, as always, standing to my right side, and he's going to be helping me with our guest today. And Chris is somewhere in the background, but we're going to ignore her for right now. I shall remember to say thank you. If I don't remember to say thank you, I'm saying thank you, Chris, right now as we go along. But here we go, everyone. So we are doing our bottom brick exercise. Now, most of you watching this will have seen me do this before. We have different guests. I think we had a bottom bricker. I'm going to call her a bottom bricker. We have our bottom brickers. I think I had one last week or the week before, and here we have another bottom bricker. Laura, welcome to our Bottom Brickers Club. It's a very exclusive club, but we are so pleased to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really honored to be here.
Well, we love having the bottom brickers. First of all, as I always do with our bottom brickers, let me just say, good for you. And I do admire you for being so brave, because it's very nerve-wracking when you're in front of a camera and you don't know who's listening. You don't know, who's around. But as I said to Laura, everyone, before we started, it's just Laura and myself and the doorpost. For those of you who are not British, you won't know what I'm talking about. Chris, of course, is in the background, and of course Grey Eagle is here as well. But Laura, why don't we begin our bottom brick exercise? Take a breath, my darling. Why don't we begin our bottom brick exercise by you telling us, first of all, a little bit about you, and then we'd love to know, why on earth are you doing this? What drove you to do this?
Well, I'm always striving to be better. So when I watched your videos, I thought this is a great way to dig a little deeper. And so I live out in Massachusetts, and I'm a single mom of 2 girls that are in college. And I'm a business owner, and yeah, I keep busy, and I'm always trying to learn and grow. That's why I'm here.
Okay, great. Well, can you tell us a little bit about why you thought that this might be a good exercise for you? And can you also tell us, why you think you might benefit from this?
Well, first of all, just writing the email to Chris helped tremendously. Just putting it in writing helped me understand a little bit about myself, things that I really hadn't thought about before. So that in itself was a great exercise, to be honest with you. And
Laura, are you saying you don't need me anymore?
No, not at all. No, but she's your gatekeeper, so I have to get through her to get to you. You know what I mean?
Well,
so that's true. And so I wanted to do this for myself, because as I'm always striving to be better, I'm always trying to do new things, and I feel like I can't get where I want to be, because I feel like I'm still stuck. So I'm always trying new ways to get that feeling, resolved, I guess is the best way to put it. Try to get past it so I can achieve the things I still haven't achieved in my life. So
getting past it and trying to resolve it. So what is it that you struggle with the most? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I struggle with being inconsistent with my life, like not wanting to push past this blockage that I have in front of me. Like, I know I need to be doing this, but I don't do it. I know I need to talk to that person, but I won't do it. I procrastinate. I read about it and I don't apply it. So why am I holding myself back from doing the things I need to do to achieve the goals I want to achieve? So I feel within my heart this blockage that's holding me back from, achieving what I want to achieve.
So you know that you're a procrastinator. You don't quite
Mhm.
understand why you do it, because procrastinating is, you know, going to hold you back, as I'm sure you know. All right, let's begin this little exercise. Now, I may push you a little, and I'll do it. I promise I'll be gentle with you. I'll do it very gently and very carefully. But I would like, as I'm asking you these questions and as we're talking through this, I'd like you to try, even if you take a few minutes and there seems to be too much silence on this thing, don't worry about that. But I'd like you to think about, before you answer the questions, think a little bit about it, think a little bit about your answers, and see if you can dig as deep inside of you as you possibly can. All right. And if you get choked up, or if you get emotional, or if you get, you know, all whatever feelings you have, I'm holding your hand, so you'll be fine. I promise you, you'll be fine. All right.
Great.
So my first question, and really important question, is um, when when what is the first memory? Let me get this question right. What is the first memory you have of feeling less than anybody else? Or what is the first memory you have of feeling, let's say there's something wrong with you, or that you're inadequate? Can you see if you can stretch your mind back and see when that first memory of your feeling less than
Right.
was?
I'm gonna say the first memory of feeling less than, feeling unheard, would be I was with my parents and my siblings at a school event. It was a Halloween event in elementary school. So I must have been like 7 or 8. And I kept asking to go see a certain event that was happening, you know, to go a certain booth or the haunted house or something. I kept asking over and over again, you know, why can't I go here? Well, let's go over here. And then finally, after asking, like, probably, you know, I'm a kid, so I'm going to say like 5 times, which seemed like forever. My father finally turned to me and said, well, what should we do now? And I said, what have I been saying for the last hour? I want to go here. And so in my little way, I got huffy and I turned my back on him and I crossed my arms and I just said, you know, just huffed at him. And he got so angry with me that the next thing I know, I'm getting smacked on the back of the head. And then he made us all leave at that point and managed to punish me all the way back to the car, you know, just
When you
yelling at
say,
me.
managed to punish you, in
Yeah.
what way were you punished, or do you feel that you were punished?
Getting hit constantly all the way back to the car.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
I know that feeling. All right, now,
Mhm.
in
Yeah.
all of this, which as a child you would feel that that was unfair, and
Mhm.
I get that. Can I ask you, you said you went there as a family with your
Mhm.
siblings and your parents, so I'm assuming that there was a mother in here somewhere. So
Right.
can you tell me what her response was when this was happening? What did she do? What was her response to this?
Nothing. There was no response. We just all left. She didn't say a word. She didn't do a thing. She just went along.
Okay.
So,
All right. Can you think of another instance where, in your childhood, where you felt less than, or as you say, unheard? I'm interested
mhm.
that you say that you felt unheard. We're
Mhm.
going to come back to that in a minute. Can you think of another instance, or another thing that you can remember that happened to you as a child?
Right. Right. So shortly after that, my parents divorced, and it was an unpleasant divorce. It was very contentious. And I remember one point walking home from school by myself, to the babysitter's house. And I was walking along, and I was almost at the babysitter's house, probably a couple blocks away. And right across the street was the middle school. She lived right across the street from the fields there. And my father pulls up, stops the car, gets out, and, you know, pushes me against the side of the car. Not pushes me, but I'm against the side of the car. I remember just looking up at him, and he's got my head in his hands, and he's just drilling me with questions. And I'm sure, you know, it was about my mom and what she's doing, and, you know, because they're going through this divorce, and trying to get information out of me for her. And now the school lets out, and now all these kids are walking by staring at us. And now I'm ashamed and humiliated, and I'm like asking to leave, and he won't let me leave. And finally, you know, he finally stops and says, okay, you can go now, and gets in the car and drives off. And somebody yells, a young boy yells from the field, who was that? And I had to admit that it was my father that was standing there with me. And it was really horrifying. It was embarrassing.
So then you felt humiliated, right?
Absolutely, and ashamed. Yeah.
Okay. Let's come back a little bit. So before the Halloween thing, before that episode, you're telling me that your parents were, well, after that they got a divorce. However, what was it like in that house before then? Because a divorce just doesn't suddenly happen overnight. Yeah. Things are being said, people are reacting different ways, people are reacting to each other, and you know, sort of communicating or not, as the case may be, with each other. Prior to the Halloween thing, what was it like in your household? What kind of an atmosphere were you being brought up in then? Can you remember, how were your parents with each other, and how were they with you and your siblings?
A lot of screaming and yelling. There was domestic violence in my household. So I saw a lot of, you know.
What does that mean? Did your mother hit your father, or did your father hit your mother? Because let me tell you, women can not only can be the receivers of, but also they can be, you know, they can be the victims, but they can also be the perpetrators of. So I'm interested in that side of it as well. Screaming and yelling at the kids and each other, or just at each other? And what kind of violence are we talking about here?
My father hitting my mother, being angry with her, and the screaming and yelling was usually after we went to bed. So much so that I adopted this little ritual at night. I would get up to get them to quiet down. I would come upstairs, I would come to the kitchen, and their treat was saltines with butter on them. So I would make saltines with butter, and I would hand them out to them just to get them to stop screaming, and then, or fighting with each other. And so then after that, after my father left the house, I couldn't sleep unless the TV was on, because I needed that volume. I needed those voices speaking. So it was a lot of that. And there was just a lot of violence in the household. So.
Was your mother ever violent with your father or with any of you?
I remember one time my mother, so angry with my father that she had chased him out of the house with, this is really horrible, with a knife, and trying to stab him in the front of the house on the street.
Okay.
In front of the house.
Yeah. You know, if he was violent to her, was she just trying to protect herself, or was she actually violent to him as well?
That's the only time I've ever seen her be violent towards him. It was mostly her protecting herself.
Can I ask you this one last question, then we're going to talk about something else? Because what you're telling me is really interesting. The saltines, meaning you're trying to pacify them, you're trying to calm things down. You know, you're the kind of person who sort of wants to, let's say, mediate between them and sort of calm them down, because you're obviously finding the arguments and the upset so painful. There are lots of ways to be violent. Physical, we always think of the physical side of things, but then there are the screamers Then there are the people who don't scream and don't speak and don't say anything, and that in itself is a violence of a kind, because when people don't speak to each other, or they refuse to speak to each other or their kids or whatever's going on, it's a silent kind of violence. It's a punishment in itself. So did your mother ever react in that way, either screaming? Did she sometimes, do you feel, cause the arguments between them? What was going on there?
Well, I probably should tell you as an alcoholic. So, I'm sure that had a lot to do with it. And there was a lot of screaming, even to this day. I think she just screamed at him because she was angry with him, and probably didn't feel he was hearing anything she said. So it escalated. And then after he left the household, I remember her screaming at us.
Okay.
That's how she.
That's what I wanted to know. That's what I wanted to get to. Okay. So, because my feeling is, as I'm talking to you, and of course we have Grey Eagle here, so I'm getting a little help here as well, obviously. But my feeling is that although we could easily look at your father and say, he was the alcoholic, that the bottom brick is not about pointing the finger. That the bottom brick is not about us saying, well, if he hadn't done this or he hadn't done that. This is not about pointing the finger anywhere. It's about trying to understand what is going on with people, and the people who let's say made you feel less, or the people that you grew up with in the environment that you grew up in. We're trying to understand them. We're not trying to point the finger or to blame anyone here. What we're trying to do is to understand what was going on here with you, and how other people's actions and reactions affected you and had a reaction on you. So I do feel that we've got two scenarios here. We've got your father, who we can easily say, oh, well, he was an alcoholic, so therefore we understand what he was going through. But we don't really, because we don't quite know what caused him to start drinking in the first place. Mm-hmm. So then we have your mother, who we can say, well, of course she was angry, of course she was upset, of course she was afraid, and of course she screamed. Who wouldn't, trying to protect herself? We could say that, but I'm suspecting that your mother was, when I say a screamer, I'm not pointing the finger, and it may be that she only screamed from time to time, or and as she got older, hopefully she learned how to control that. But I suspect that your parents were incompatible from the very beginning, before you little ones came along, I think. I think that they were incompatible, and in some ways brought out the worst in each other, which often happens. But I also feel that both of your parents grew up with rage, maybe from their beginnings, from their childhoods, whatever went on with them. So we can, if that is the case, which I suspect it is, if that is the case, then if we look at them as not necessarily your parents, but if we look at them as two people who have grown up in really poor environments, and their reactions are due to a lot of due to the fact of what they had to deal with and so on, we can in fact be a little bit more understanding of them, right? We can in fact see, well, they're only human, and rather than judging them, and rather than judging their actions and reactions, we can accept that we all of us have our breaking point. And I think your parents, being incompatible, often drove each other to the breaking point again and again. And unfortunately, here you are, you're a child trying to stop that. the thing with the crackers and the fact that you dared. Just imagine this: you're a child, you're afraid, you're listening to all this, but yet you dared to come down the stairs and try to stop it, which means that you're a brave person, you're a caring person, and you've tried to, let's say, pacify. Let me ask you this, Laura, how many times in your life have you taken on that role?
I haven't stopped. I've always been that way.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
haven't stopped, have you? You're always trying to put things right, or to pacify, or to make things better for other people.
Exactly.
Would you say that's right?
Oh yeah, I'm taking care of 2 family members right now, as a
Okay.
matter of fact.
When
Making
I
sure.
say this to you, when I've said to you, when did you stop, or how long have you been doing this? When did you stop? And you said, well, I haven't. Did that surprise you to hear that I asked you that question?
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Because you've never looked at it like that, have you?
Never. Mm-mm.
No. Now then, okay, so you've spent your life with your children, with your family, with whatever's going on. I'm sure you do it at work as well.
Mm-hmm.
You try to pacify, you try to please, you try to be the best you can for people. Would you say that that's right?
Yes, absolutely.
Trying to be the best for your parents. Would you say that's right?
Yes.
Taking the crackers and let me ask you, did it work?
Yes, it did.
For how long?
Just for that night, not the next night.
That's
Only
what
when I did it.
Yes, did it work and for how long? It was a temporary fix, wasn't it?
Right.
Right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Now, if we go to the time when your father sort of was, beating up on you, at the wherever you were, at the babysitter's house, and of course you're going to feel embarrassed. Of course you're going to feel, because the spotlight's on you, isn't it? We can understand his actions, because the actions of someone who's out of control, they will do that. They don't even think of how it's affecting somebody else. But yet we're now dealing with the effect that had on you. We're not thinking about your dad, because we're not interested in getting him right. I'm interested in getting you to figure this out for yourself. When this happened and he did all of this, what was your reaction or your response to that? Can you remember?
To him stopping me on the side of the road?
Yes.
You mean?
Afterwards. I mean,
Yeah.
there's your babysitter. Did you go into the babysitter's house and tell? Did you tell your mother? I mean, what?
No, because he told me not to tell anyone, so
There
I
you
kept it
are.
to
So there you are. So you're pleasing him again, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Pacifying, putting things right. Had you told your mother, what would have happened?
She probably would have gotten mad and yelled at him. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
But my suspicion is that your mother would have yelled at him for trying to find out about her, not for doing that to you so much.
Right.
Am
Exactly.
I right on that, or do you think I'm off the mark? Please tell me.
No, I think you're exactly right. I think you're exactly right. It's never about me. Yeah.
So you have a mother who is so steeped in the pain and the hurt and so on that that she's experiencing. She's not thinking about her children. She's certainly not thinking about your needs. As a mother yourself, I'm sure you would have only thought about the response of your children, and you would have protected them as much as you could. I know this because you took crackers to your mom and dad. You tried to appease, you tried to please. Let me ask you, all this pleasing and appeasing, how's it going for you, Laura?
exhausting.
Isn't it though?
Yes.
Is it
Yep.
working?
No.
Has it
No.
ever worked?
No.
Long term?
No. No. They just get angry and they don't want to be helped. It's like, why am I bothering? Yeah.
Okay. Well, why are you? Because you have this sort of driven into you as a child living in this environment. You've had it drilled into you. You have learned. This is learned behavior that you have. Going right back to the crackers when you were 7 years old, right? I don't know how old you are now. You don't have to tell me that. We never ask a lady her age, do we? However, this learned behavior has gone on and on through what? Through relationships, marriages, through your kids, through your work colleagues, on and on and on through all of that. Does it ever work for you long term?
No.
Do you
Never.
think it ever will?
No, never. Because I never thought of it that way. But yeah, it's not working and it never will work. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Are you understanding a little bit more now as we talk about how you've come to this point in your life?
Absolutely. Yes.
What does this have to do with procrastinating, do you think? Would you like me to help you a little bit?
Please.
Yeah,
Well,
here's the deal, you see. I like my bottom brickers to sort of figure it out for themselves. So if I say something to you now today and you think about it later and you think, oh, don't think that was quite right, by all means come back at us, by all means sort of, come back and say, don't think that was quite right. If you don't think it's quite right, it's because you've figured out the reason why these things happen. So, okay, so here is what I think, she says. Okay, ready. And I'm talking with Gregor as I'm doing this to you. So you try and you try and you try and it doesn't work. So procrastination is that absolutely perfect way out of things, isn't it? If you never go out on a date, you will never meet someone who will hurt you and upset you and cause you pain. So let's procrastinate about, I don't want to say I don't want to go out on a date, but I'm not going to. On a subconscious level, you're protecting yourself from being hurt again. Right. When you want to do something and it's important to you, but somehow or another you can't do it, you procrastinate. I think it's because you're afraid. What if it fails? What if I don't succeed? What if the same thing happens again and again? What if? So on a subconscious level, you're putting off the inevitable, because as far as you are concerned, the inevitable is that you're going to be disappointed. How does that sound to you?
That sounds right on the money. Yeah, it's,
fear of
failure. Yeah.
What I'm asking is, does it resonate?
Yes, it resonates. Yes.
So if you don't try and if you don't work on this project as much as you should, and if you don't go out on a date, isn't it a way, subconsciously, on some subconscious level, isn't it a way of you protecting yourself?
Absolutely. Yes.
What are you protecting yourself from, do you think?
Pain, disappointment, hurt. Yeah.
And so what are you getting instead?
Pain, disappointment.
Yeah, hallelujah. Good job. Good job. Well done, girl. Well done. So you see, by trying to avoid, trying to hide trying to hide yourself, trying to keep yourself safe, you're not keeping yourself safe at all, are you? Because you're not living really to the fullest extent, right?
Exactly.
So I've got one more question for you, then we'll talk about this, okay?
Okay.
Here is my question to you. And you haven't mentioned it today, but I'm mentioning it to you. Because we maybe are a little bit smarter than you right now, but we're hoping you're going to get so smart that you'll never ever worry about doing anything again. Let me ask you, why do you think it is that you find it so difficult, in fact, very often impossible, to say to those you love, I love you?
Because I'm afraid they're not going to say it back, maybe. You know, I wrote to Chris, sometimes I feel like they'll find out that I'm not lovable enough, that, you know, they'll be disappointed, you know, because if someone says something, you just meet someone that you think you're so great. I'm like, oh, just wait. I'm going to do something to make you feel opposite of that. You know, I'm
where
probably
do
going to
you
just
think that comes from?
not hearing it from my parents.
Right. Well,
Not being told I love you just for being me. I had to be told yeah.
It's not just not hearing it from your parents. It's with their every action, with their every deed. Perhaps not every, but as far as we've talked about, they've shown you, haven't they, that you're not valuable. You're not nearly as valuable as that next drink. You're not nearly as valuable as that next feeling of anger and screaming and raging. Me, 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 me. Look at me, which is your mother.
Right.
So I said to someone the other day, our children do not learn from what we tell them or what we say to them. They learn by example how to be or how not to be. And you, after all of these years, are still following your parents' example. Because by withholding, by being afraid to say, I love you, by being afraid to tell your children, your friends, your loved ones, I love you, you're following, aren't you, in your parents' footsteps? Because isn't that what they did to you?
Exactly.
So how does that make you feel?
Sad. Sad. Yeah.
But you can rectify it. You can make it better. You know, I think you're one of these people who will pretty much strive to do anything to keep the peace. Because you've lived in a world where there was no peace. And all you heard was fighting and arguing. But what you need to learn, Laura, is that short-term peace, just for the sake of keeping the peace, brings long-term misery. Short-term keeping the peace, short-term keeping the noise down or stopping people from arguing or fighting, or short-term anything at the expense of your own self and your own feelings, brings long-term misery. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
Because when you try to pacify and you try to calm and it's not working, or when you try to be the person you think your people, your colleagues at work or your family, you think that this is what they want, I'll be what they want me to be, right? It's at the expense of being yourself and daring just to be you.
Right.
Do you understand?
That makes sense. Yeah, absolutely.
And the worst thing is, they're still disappointed at the end of it.
Yeah.
Do you know why they're disappointed, Laura?
Because they didn't ask for the help to begin with. And I keep
No,
imposing it on them? Oh,
no,
no,
no, no, no, no,
no,
no, no, no.
no.
No, they're disappointed. Okay, how can I explain this to you? Okay, it's like you go on a date with someone, you really like them, you just absolutely think they're absolutely everything. And you've done this, just by the way. You go on this date, and let's say the guy says, gosh, I love football, and you hate it. But you want him to like you. So, yeah, I love football too.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get mad when he wants to take you to a football match every weekend. You said it. You said, I love football too. Okay, then, you know, well, he'll say, well, I love pasta. I don't eat anything but pasta. Or me too. Because you want to please him. You want him to see you in a good light because you don't trust who you are, right? Well,
Exactly.
sooner or later, when you've kept pleasing and pleasing and pleasing, and it doesn't work because you're miserable, sooner or later, you're going to turn around and say, I hate football. And he'll say, but you said, and you say, I hate pasta, but you said, well, what you've done is in order to please somebody else, you've presented to them a person who isn't you.
Right.
And eventually, you've got to come out and be yourself. And they're looking at you thinking, I don't even know this person. Who is this person? Because you presented yourself as something other than who you are. Do you understand?
Yeah, it's a false image, I guess.
Sooner or later, then, they're going to be disappointed, aren't they?
Exactly.
Right? So
Right.
what are you learning from this young lady?
Be myself. Don't be afraid to be myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look,
Put myself first.
no, well, you can't
A
put
little
yourself
bit. I mean,
first
put myself
always,
out there.
but be
Mm-hmm.
selfish with yourself by all means, as long as you're not hurting or upsetting other people to do so. But what you need to do is you need to trust who you are inside, and you need to show that person and stop putting on a false image because you so want them to like you and to, I think, more than like you, you want to be accepted, don't you?
Right.
You want to
Yep.
be accepted for who you are, but yet you're not showing who you are. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, it does. I never really thought of it that way, but it makes sense. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you cannot do anything about your parents. They lived their life, they had their experiences, and they scarred you. It happens all the time, you know. Even I'm a perfect mother, not, you know, as perfect as you can be as a mother, which means we've got lots of flaws as parents.
Mm-hmm.
But no matter how much we strive to be the best, we still can inadvertently scar our children. We don't mean to, but we do it anyway. So there are trillions of us walking around on this planet who are scarred. And very often you feel scarred, right? Inside,
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
right? So very often, the more scarred we are, the more we sink into ourselves, and the more we try to put on a face for people that's a brave face, but inside we're quivering and we're quaking, and we're trying to hide our scars. Would you say that's where you are?
Absolutely. Yeah. We don't want anyone to see those. Yeah. Because that would be another reason why they wouldn't like you. It's like, oh my
Right.
gosh, you did that and you went through that and
Yeah.
they look at you differently. Yeah.
Okay. Do you think that people don't like me because I've told everybody what a lousy childhood I had and how my parents were with each other? Do you think people don't like me then when they see my scars because I talk about them?
No.
See?
No. Mm-hmm.
This is what I'd like you to try to do. Okay? When I listen to people who've had these tough beginnings and are struggling, what I see when I look at you, Laura, is I see a warrior. You've battled lots of things. You've stood on the battlegrounds. You've battled for other people. You're more than willing to battle for other people, but you're afraid to battle for yourself or to be seen to battling for yourself. We warriors, we love our scars. We embrace our scars. And we are not afraid to show our scars because they show who we are. We are brave, we are loving, we are caring, and many of the scars that we carry are scars from battles we fought for other people.
Yeah.
I want you to stop being so afraid of other people seeing your scars. The people who see them will embrace you. And when you embrace your scars and you own your scars and you own who you are, some people will absolutely not like you, but the people who matter will love you.
That's beautiful.
That's a promise.
Mm.
Do you think you can own your scars?
I think I can start. I can try.
Do you think you could sit down with your family, maybe even let them listen to this or tell them how you're feeling?
I can do that. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think you could dare to say that you love them?
I can definitely do that.
Without being afraid that they're going to what? What are you afraid of? When you won't tell somebody you love them, what are you afraid of?
Rejection, I guess. That would be the biggest. Yeah.
That is the word. You're afraid of being rejected. You're afraid of your work colleagues rejecting you. You're afraid of in your relationships. For all of your life, you've been afraid of people rejecting you in case they ever saw you how your parents, well, didn't see you. Right?
Right.
You're afraid people are going to look at you and see what? Nothing. But when I look at you, I see those scars and I love you for them.
Thank you.
And you should love yourself for them. It's not enough that I love you for your scars. You have to learn to love you for your scars. You know, I tell my students, each of us, we need to be able to look at ourselves and be able to say, okay, I'm not the best person in the world. I'm not the nicest person in the world. But if I didn't know me, and I met me for the first time and then I got to know me, I'd quite like me. Do you understand that?
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
You've got to learn to like yourself. And there's so much about you that is likable. And people come around you and you have lots of friends who seem to like you. And if you were to show your scars a little bit, or if you were to let them see your uncertainty, you would actually find out that they too have scars and they too have uncertainties. And by learning to love yourself and by learning to show yourself, you're going to inspire them. As even sitting through this session today, you are inspiring so many.
That would be great.
I promise if you dare to do it, I'm going to hold your feet to the fire. We're going to have you back and you're going to be able to tell me and tell everybody else how well you did with this. And how do you feel better? Do you feel easier? Do you feel lighter? How do you feel?
I feel excited, actually. Excited and hopeful. And yeah, I feel like it's time. It's really time.
Can I ask you this? One final question, then we're going to go to Chris and see if we've got any comments or anyone wants to say anything. in the chat room. I want to ask you this, and it's the most important question. Laura, from Grey Eagle and from myself, do you feel seen?
Absolutely. Definitely. You hit some things on about me that I had never thought of before. So yes, and heard.
I'm going to ask you some, and the next question, Laura, do you feel heard?
Definitely. Yes. Yes.
So if we see you and if we hear you and we love you anyway, then it's time, I think, that you learn to love yourself.
Yes. It's well overdue.
Okay, Chris, I know you're there somewhere in the background there. Do we have any comments or questions from the chat room? I guess we don't.
No, we're here, Rosemary.
Oh, okay. All right.
There's little technical glitches. I see you as your screen frozen, so it's some weird things happening here. But
okay.
Let's see. We'll start with Linda says, I'm also a quote, Laura, and you have enlightened me beyond anything I could have imagined. Cheryl says, no hiding from Rosemary and Grey Eagle.
That's for sure.
Then Judith says, I suppose we all have scars. I love others with their scars, and I hope I am being loved despite my scars.
Very nice.
Okay, we have, is there one more before we?
I did see one, but it's not coming up right now.
Okay, all right, well, not to worry. So Laura, having had this experience, we know that, I mean, people watch this show live, but then they also go and watch it recorded, and you'll be able to access it. You'll be able to access the recording as well. Do you think you'll go back and look at this again?
Oh, definitely. I plan on it. Yes.
And
yes.
Sort of in this moment, I know when you start to think about it, you'll have heard a lot more than you even realize that you heard. And I think also that you will hopefully be more and even more enlightened when you go back and listen to this. And also, hopefully, I think that you will be inspired by it, because as much as you will inspire other people, I want you to be inspired by it. I want you to be inspired to dare to be who you are. But give us just in a few words, just give us your take. Well, actually, not in a few words. You can talk as long as you like. But give us your take on this experience that you've had. First of all, have you stopped shaking? Have you stopped being nervous? And what do you think that you might gain from this, both now through this experience and in the future? What do you think?
Well, definitely. I've gained a lot of insight. I'll say that I will take take in very carefully and re-examine even more, because it's, you know, when you're always striving to be a little bit better, like it's really important to me not to pass on these scars to my children. You know, I'm trying really hard not to do that. And that's another reason why I'm always constantly trying to improve myself, because I want them to be the best that they can be as well. That's, I guess, the pleasing part of me. But having this insight that I didn't have before is definitely going to play even more into my life, that if it makes me stronger to go out and do what I need to do in order to make the changes I need to make. And that's what I came here for. And that's definitely what I received today, because I'm going to take this information and this insight and take it out into the world and start working on accepting me for me and not judging me so harshly as I have in the past. And I think part of my work is to get in front of a camera and be out there and putting myself out there more. And I am so afraid to do that. And from this point on, I'm not going to let that hold me back anymore. I mean, this exercise has given me that opportunity to move forward that I didn't have before. So I'm very thankful to you and Gray Eagle for this. Absolutely. So thank you very much.
I don't know if you ever watched The Wizard of Oz, but the lion, he's the coward, he trembles and so on and so forth. But everything he does with Dorothy shows how brave he is. But he thinks he's a coward, he thinks he's something that he isn't. And I think that, like the lion a little bit, you think that you're a coward, so therefore you behave as a coward. Unless it's for somebody else, unless it's to protect somebody else, unless it's to fight for somebody else, and then you can be really, really brave. What I would like you to do is to stop hiding who you really are. Stop making those excuses that you think are protecting you, because they're not. None of what you've been doing so far is protecting you. The only way you can protect yourself is to go out there and be as strong as you possibly can be. And, as my father would say to me, don't matter how scared you are, get out there and do it anyway. So, I'm hoping that you will start to tell your children more that you love them. And I'm hoping that you'll start to share with them what you have learned, and maybe you will even let them sit and watch this to help them to understand you more and to not be afraid of their judgment of you.
Yes, I definitely will sit down with them over the weekend with Easter. So that would be a nice thing to do. Yeah.
Well, you know what? Make sure you've got chocolate, because it always makes things better.
Absolutely. Lots of that. Yeah.
Well, Laura, thank you so much. You've been a great guest. You really have. And as we always say with all of that, you are now in the club. You're in our Bottom Brick Club.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
And of course, there'll be a time we'll say to you, can you come back and tell us, how are you doing, having had your Bottom Brick experience? Did it help? Whatever the answers are, we want to hear from you again. And I know that people watching will really want to know what your story is and how you're going to benefit from this. So thank you so much. And thank you for being so brave and bearing your soul to us. I hope I treated you gently when you did this. That's what I try to do with all of my Bottom Brickers. Okay, I'd like to say thank you, of course, to Chris. I'd like to say thank you to Gray Eagle, of course. And for all of you watching, we really hope, and I know that Laura will inspire you. We really hope that you listen. We hope that you gain something from this. This is a great exercise. If you want to be part of our Bottom Brick Club, we are an exclusive club, by the way. But if you, and Laura's part of that now, if you want to be part of our Bottom Brickers, if you want to become a Bottom Bricker yourself, please email us, Chris, K-R-I-S, @rosemaryaltea.com, or go to our website, rosemaryaltea.com, I think it is. Anyway, you'll find it. Just put my name in. Just type my name in. And go to the website, see what we're up to, see what we're doing. And in the meantime, again, Laura, you were pretty good. In fact, I think you were pretty marvelous. Good job on you. You are worth the title of Bottom Bricker. Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody for watching. Until we see you again. Bye-bye, everybody.